And I've seen a lot of miracles that show that I believe God wants me doing this. And this is my calling for the next 10, 20 years.
I've thought a lot about as I've started my business is how do I bring God into this, right? If I am aligned with His will, I know He's going to make opportunities appear. If you're focusing on making a huge impact in the world,
Yeah.
it's going to happen.
We would be nowhere without the people that I get to work with.
The most important thing is align with what you do with a very powerful mission.
The best people you can help is the people that are in your shoes. Video is the most effective way to capture anything that's important. So think about.
Hello and welcome everyone. This is the Founder Scoop. My name is Jacob Lee and today I have with me Jaxon Cummings. Welcome, dude. Thank you for coming.
It's an honor to be here.
So Jaxon, what is your company?
So my company is called Your Life Legacy, and we help capture the life and legacy of people's loved ones. I like to have people imagine like a Netflix series documentary about your parents or grandparents. And that's what we help capture. And so like a simple explanation of what we do is we would actually bring a studio kind of like this, the camera gear and all that, to your parents or grandparents' house. And we sit down, we do typically a 4-hour interview with them and pull all of their life lessons, their life stories, and what they want passed on to future generations. So we capture it with them right then. And then we get pictures and videos, because not only do we want, for example, your grandpa, we want to capture who he is as a person. But for your great-grandkids that will never know him in person, we want to paint a picture of what his life has looked like. And so that's where we get pictures and put it on top of it. And we create these episodes of each different parts of their life. And we put it into a documentary series. And that's like year to date in 2024 is the most effective way to capture someone's life and their story.
Jaxon, I love your business so much. We sat down, was it a month or two ago, and had lunch, and I was able to hear your story, and it was really inspiring to me. So I'm really excited to talk about like how you got started and why you're doing what you're doing today.
Yeah.
So
Well, thank you. Yeah, Jacob, you're awesome, man, and I see a very fruitful journey that you're going on, and you'll have a lot of success. I'll start with my why as a human and how it has trajected me into your life legacy and what we're doing. So before my mission, I went on an LDS mission, and I was like pretty hesitant to go on a mission because I was so excited to start companies, and I was set on moving back to Hawaii and starting a shark diving company. And I just thought it'd be really fun.
where are you from originally?
So I grew up in Farmington, Utah. If you've ever been to Lagoon,
Yeah.
that's where I first learned how to talk with girls on that sky ride. They would be going the other direction, and we'd say some stupid things to them that would hopefully get their attention. And if it went well, then we'd go meet them. And if it didn't, we'd be on the other side of the park.
That's crazy.
So I grew up in Farmington. I lived a little bit of time in Hawaii, and yeah, then I served my mission, and I've been in Utah, in the Utah County area. And so when I want to start that Shark Tank company, and my goal was just to make a ton of money and retire by 35. And that was
That's pretty
what
ambitious.
I was
Wow.
expecting. Yeah. Then I went on my mission, and I was just reading scriptures one day, and I had a very strong, special moment where, as I was reading the scriptures, it was kind of revealed to me that my personal life purpose is to positively impact hundreds of thousands of people's life, to help them make a pivotal change that will forever upgrade the quality of their life. And from then on, I've been on the search of how I can best positively influence and help people upgrade the quality of their life. And so I've been on this little journey where I've had, some special opportunities to enjoy business a lot. And I've turned down a lot of opportunities that would have led to a lot of financial security and freedom because of I know this is what is most important to try and make a sincere impact on everyone I can. And so while this was all happening, my father has lived such an interesting life, and he plays such a big role in what I do on a day-to-day basis. Um, and I want to give a little bit of background of Mark Cummings. At age 13, he actually bought his first piece of real estate, which is
Holy
you
cow.
just don't hear.
13 years
13
old.
years old,
Wow.
and he built a life of being a serial entrepreneur where he was very successful in business. He ended up raising 5 kids. He actually came out gay, and I've just been able to learn so many amazing life stories from him that has really changed my life. And I've always thought like I want to have this captured so that my kids and grandkids and future generations can know who has made a giant ripple effect in the Cummings legacy. And so I bugged him for about 5 years to write down his story, and he just would never do it. And it was so annoying. And I kind of hit me like, yeah, it's a big ask to have someone tell their whole life story. And if you've tried to journal one day, like it's actually hard and annoying. And so that always sat in the back of my mind while I did a couple other things. And one day I was watching a documentary on Netflix, and I just got hit by a train where I was like, I need to do this for my dad. And so it just wouldn't leave my mind. I started like losing sleep over it. And so I was like, okay, well, let me look into some solutions. And every company that I looked into seemed to lack something that I wanted in my father's documentary. To the point where my best friend, his dad had done commercials for Chevrolet, and he's got 30 years of videographer experience. Where I was like, you know what? I'm going to hire him and let's go record a couple other people's stories and get down the process, because we're not going to learn on my dad's, but I am getting my dad's story captured. And so we ended up doing 2 other documentaries, and they turned out so much better than I could have ever expected that I started talking to my dad where I was like, Dad, this is looking amazing. Like, check this out. And he was getting excited. We started preparing. And as we were preparing, he actually passed away unexpectedly.
Oh my gosh.
And so it was like all this work and all this thought going into this, like, why is this happening? And it gave myself and my family this big regret that so much of my dad's legacy and his story really just went to the ground with him, which is a hard thing to face, but it has given me so much inspiration and ambition to well, first, when that happened, I was just like, I don't want a single other person to go through this experience and have a loved one's life go to waste. There's a statistic that I learned that even if someone's made a giant impact, like my father, if his story isn't captured after 2 or 3 generations, he will be forgotten. And I can't sit with
That's
that.
a
And that's
horrible
not
thought.
okay
Yeah.
with me. And I don't want anyone else to go through that. And so that's when I created Your Life Legacy, to help capture everyone's loved ones and their story and make sure that they're never going to be forgotten. One thing I realized, it's taking way too much time for people to capture their own story. By the time that they're thinking about that, they're probably too old to get into it. On average, it takes a human somewhere from 5 to 8 years to write down their own story. There's a couple solutions now that are pretty good. but video is the most effective way to capture anything that's important. So think about like when you read a book, on average, you retain 10% of what you've read in that entire book. But in video, the studies show that on average, a human retains up to 95% of
Wow,
what they watch in video.
that's very interesting.
And so that is why it's the best way to do it. And now we've simplified it down to the point where it only takes our people 5 hours of their time to have a fully polished documentary where they could die the next day and had their posterity fully taken care of and learned and inspired by their loved ones.
Man, first off, I'm very sorry to hear about your dad. That's must have been a very hard experience. But it's
Thanks.
really cool to see how you're using that to serve other people. It's really changed you, and it's helping you become an individual who is unstoppable. Like your motivation is it's so core to who you are that like no matter what happens, you're gonna make an impact on people's lives.
Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate it. It's been quite a journey. But yeah, it's cool. I feel like I honor my dad every day. So I feel very fortunate.
That's amazing. So going back to those first couple documentaries you did while your dad was still alive, did you charge for those or did you do them for free just to test the concept?
So I did them for free and I just knew I was going to take a loss. But then the people that I did it with, they're like, "You are putting in so much work. I have to pay you." And so they actually we were able to make money on them.
Really?
Like, and so that was interesting. But
That's definitely a good way of proving the concept.
yeah,
It's like
where
I
it's
was
like,
gonna do it for free, but they're throwing money at me because of
yeah,
how valuable it is.
yeah. And so that was a good trial and error, which with two subjects to start a business, typically you want a lot more data behind that than just a couple people. But one, it felt like something I needed to do for my dad, obviously, but I felt very inspired that this was going to be the vehicle that would not only allow me to do my personal life purpose, but this is going to be the vehicle that influences like tens of millions of people. And so it's going to 10x what I was planning on doing. Well, actually, a lot more than that, but and so I was like, "Hey, I'm locked in. Like let's do this." And I've seen a lot of miracles that show that I believe God wants me doing this. And this is my calling for the next 10, 20 years to help everyone I possibly can have their life celebrated and remembered.
That's amazing. Can you give me a bit of a timeline? How long has Life Legacy
Yeah.
been going on for?
So Your Life Legacy has been going for almost 2 years now. My dad passed 2 Novembers ago.
Okay. So it's you're chugging along. You've got a
Yeah.
couple years under your belt.
Yeah.
What kind of successes have you had so far?
For example, like marketing wise, we have now been on People Magazine. Uh, let's see, Good News Utah, a couple other magazines, and then so we've had like the traction, and then my favorite part is I typically get to work with some of the most special humans. I've been able to document the life of Tadar Collister, which he was a dominant or predominant person in the LDS Church as a general authority, and he wrote the Infinite Atonement. And so when that one came, sometimes, most of the time, we have other people interview, and I was like, no way, I'm gonna sit down and interview with him, and so that was super special.
A cool opportunity for
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
John Schmidt, the piano guys, such a special soul, and he's like a father figure that I would love to be like. What one of our last ones was about this lady that her father was one of the wealthiest people in South Korea. he actually escaped from North Korea and came over to South Korea and made this crazy
Holy cow.
this crazy empire. And then the Korean War broke out as she was 5 years old, and uh, the North Korean soldiers came straight for her dad, and so he escaped, but they took over their home, and she was actually enslaved to them for a while, and
Holy cow.
like the story is just crazy. And so I get to work with these inspiring individuals that it's like I am so grateful that their story gets captured. And then it's also interesting because will work with everyday people as well. And it's like this random farmer lady in Idaho um, has the most inspiring story ever that would never be talked about, but people die over how amazing these stories are. But my favorite part is we do these premieres with the family. I didn't just want to be a company that like would do the filming and then would give them like a USB and say like, hey, here's 2 terabytes of video. Like I hope a random uncle of yours can store it somewhere and then no one ever sees it. So we do these live premieres where the family will watch a couple episodes and then they go around and share like why they love them and a favorite memory. And I'm telling you, those moments are so special to families. I've seen like really big healings of family trauma. I've seen these days be like one of the most special days of the main person's life. And there was a really special one where this guy had stage 4 terminal cancer, and his story was amazing. But he was 29, and what we did was a living funeral essentially. The wife was amazing, and there was a megaplex that got rented. There was limos that got rented and red carpet, and so they show up in a limo, and everyone's dressed up like it's the Grammys, and they walk out, and all their loved ones are surrounding them and celebrating them like they're Brad Pitt and like Angelina Jolie, and then we all watch their documentary on the big screen, and just everyone's either laughing one moment and crying the next, and it just was one of the most fulfilling days of my life. But we get to I was telling you before this, but I love everyone I get to work with, client wise, and then our team is amazing as well.
That's amazing. I was just wondering, what was that experience like building your team? Because it sounds like you've got a lot of people helping now.
Yeah, it's taken a while to understand, well, like one, how to recruit, how to get people to stay. For a while, I started by getting connected with Handshake, a place where people do internships, and I would just have people come on for the experience, and they wouldn't get paid, but we were giving like our work is really fulfilling, and people enjoy their work while they're with us. And so we've had times where we've had like over 12 interns working and going, and but I just learned the churn process is horrible. As soon as someone gets really good, it's like then they're moving on to their next part of school or things like that. And I've now turned to, I really love working with people overseas. One, our family background, we've gone, and I grew up going to Mexico. My father did a lot of business in Mexico, and so I love Latin people more than anything. And working with them has been really special. One, they're way more grateful, and like of course there's certain cases and stuff, but with what I've seen, they work insanely hard. They're really grateful for the work they get, and it's like they're doing well in their country, and so I think it's the greatest win-win. And I just love having a team that I can trust, and we would be nowhere without the people that I get to work with. So very grateful for learning how to build a team. But I think as a founder, and this comes from Richard Brunson, that your job is to craft the vision and sell it to the best players around. So, for example, Richard Branson, he started a cruise company and he would hire the number two guys of the best cruise company. And how he would do that was with vision and lots of money. But in most cases, for founders that are bootstrapping, like myself, you have to really be good at selling the vision of what's to come, what's the opportunity. And we've been able to bring on a lot of A players that have exploded the company.
That's amazing, dude. What is your vision then? I know you've kind of already touched with that, but like,
Yeah.
expand on it a little bit more.
Well, I want to start with, in the next 10 years, something special is to ask everyone in the team, like, where do you see this going? And I've had people say, we're going to be the Amazon of life celebration. And so any piece of life celebration or capturing their stories, things like that, that's what we'll be. And that resonates highly with me. And it's beautiful to be able to let families understand how amazing their loved ones are. Out of every documentary, people come out thinking that they knew their loved ones really well, and they learn all these new stories, and they're so much more connected. And if you've ever been to a funeral and you learn these new things and you just wish that you would have known that before, because like I wanted to talk to that person about this, and this gives that opportunity. And every life is almost always celebrated, but it's after they've died. And so to bring the celebration where they get to realize the impact they've had on their family, it's hard to put into words how beautiful that is. And they don't realize how special they are. They never think they are as amazing as they really are. And to just see that firsthand is, it's beautiful. And the people we work with, they always say the word priceless. This is priceless. And that just makes us all feel really good about what we're doing.
Man, I feel like out of all that you've said, the most important thing is to align with what you do with a very powerful mission. Because if you do that, everything else is going to work itself out. If you're focusing on making a huge impact in the world,
Yeah,
it's going to happen.
I agree completely. There's a reason why there's a lot of books and people talk about starting with why. Like, sincerely, the first year and a little bit, I was drugged through the mud by choice. Like I'm going at it with my arms. And you just can't get through things like that unless you have a really big why behind it. And it's a great experience to look back on, and you do learn so much. I think one of the greatest educations you could ever give yourself is starting a company. And one of the coolest ways that I've connected a lot with God has been through creating a company, because you're creating something, and it's a very spiritual game. I love having the thought and knowledge that God is the ultimate board advisor. And so my invitation to anyone that believes in God or not, just know that He is there, He loves you, and He wants you to succeed, and He'll help you along the way.
I love that so much, man. That's something that I've thought a lot about as I've started my business is how do I bring God into this, right? If I am aligned with His will, I know He's going to make opportunities appear. And so I really that really resonates with me a lot.
I also think going into a business, it's kind of like golf. I don't know who plays golf out there, but for some reason, every time you hit, your wedge or whatever, you expect it to go perfect every time. And it's like, I play golf once a week or once every 2 weeks, and I expect to be playing just like the pros. And the pros have been doing this for 10, 20 years. How can you have the expectation that in 3 months that I'm going to be playing like a pro? And so when you think of your goals and what you want, if you're thinking in months, you need to think in months, by the way. But if you can't vision and you can't be willing to sacrifice like a decent amount of time for the wins that you need in your business, it's going to be a lot harder journey. But if you're thinking in years and decades to win, you can win. And this isn't a sprint, it's a marathon, but you got to be running quick and just get your practice in.
Well, Jackson, I have really, really loved your story. Thank you for sharing. Where can people go to learn more about you and learn more about your company?
Yeah. So, Your Life Legacy, if you type it in on Google, it's going to show up. It's your-life-legacy. That's what we could get right now. We also have a podcast. It's called the Life Legacy Podcast, and I'm the host there. Then it's Jaxon Cummings Official on social medias. And sincerely, if anyone needs help with anything, I'd love to chat with you.
Well, I just want to second that. Jaxon is an amazing individual. I love his company. I love his vision. Guys, please go check out his stuff. He's a great person. Please do it.
Well, thanks, man. You are too.
Thank you. Well, thanks again for coming on the show. I appreciate hearing your story.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for putting a platform for it. And to everyone at home, good luck. I hope you believe in yourself and just know that you can accomplish bigger things than what you realize.